Welcome to another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. I'm Craig DiVizzio. My guest today is Russ Hedge. He's a keynote speaker, marketing coach, business consultant, and has authored the book Befuddled, Live the Life You Choose. Has this whole pandemic and everything that comes with it befuddled you? Are you looking for direction in life? Are you wanting to find a strategy to go about doing that? If so, stay tuned. We got the answers for you. Welcome back to another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. I'm Craig DiVizzio, and my guest today is a great guy out there on the West Coast in Oregon, Russ Hedge. He's a keynote speaker, marketing coach, business consultant, live streamer, podcaster, and author of the book Befuddled, Live the Life You Choose. And that's a topic we're going to talk about today for sure. Russ is a master connector working in marketing and sales for over 30 years. That's another thing I wanted to ask you, Russ, is talking about the connection from marketing and sales and how you got to where you are now. He's been recognized as a top salesperson in multiple industries and for his skills in networking and connecting. He loves to encourage, inspire, and make people smile, which is why he's known as the inspiration specialist. Here's another guy. I talked to his guy that he does his one of his podcasts with, D. Scott Smith, a little bit earlier, and he also found, just like Russ did, the love of his life and snagged him and has held on to him for 34 years. Congratulations to you for that. Got 2 adult children, Kyla and Connor, and a daughter-in-law, Gabby. His goal is to add value to people by encouraging and helping them live a more engaged and positive life. He's also got a couple of podcasts, Marketing with Russ, aka hashtag Russ Selfie, live shows, and the Experience Live with Russ and Scott, and Russ Reels. You're all over the place, Russ. You got a lot of stuff going on, my friend. I'm glad that you could make the time to be with me today.
Well, Craig, I am so glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on. What a pleasure. You have just become such a great friend so quickly, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm glad to have you. And I should have mentioned earlier that in the podcast, The Experience Live with Russ and Scott, I had the pleasure of being on your show, about a week and a half ago, and had a blast doing that. So I appreciate you coming back and being my guest. Let's talk a little
You
bit
bet.
about your book, which, from what I understand, incorporates something really close to my heart, and that is helping people live the best life that they possibly can. So go wherever you want to go with that, and we'll figure it out from there.
All right. Well, I've always been the live the life you choose kind of guy. And I love this opportunity of life that we have. God's given us an abundant world to live in, great opportunity, possibilities, and I've always been a positive, upbeat, make the most of life type of person. So when I got ready to write this book, of course, that was going to be my theme because it was going to be a little slice of me. And what I was really trying to do was to kind of get out a little bit about me and what I was all about and what I wanted to inspire and encourage others to do. And that would be to live a purpose driven life of significance. My goal for people is to make them difference makers, to make them world changers, to get people out there and make a positive difference in this world. So that was my overriding theme. And, it's amazing how the main title of the book came about because my beautiful wife one day, I was getting ready to go in the morning to a meeting and I was running a little bit late. I have a very structured morning routine. So I'd woken up a little bit later than normal. So I had to squeeze my morning routine together. And then I had to race out of the house to get in the car to drive, 30 miles to where my meeting was. Well, as I'm trying to say goodbye to her, I'm dropping things, I'm tripping, I'm all out of sorts, I'm forgetting things. And she goes, honey, are you okay? And I said, oh, I'm fine, because that's my go-to. I'm fine. I'm all good. Life is good. All is okay, even if it really isn't. And so she says, no, honey, really, are you okay? Because you look kind of befuddled, she
Okay,
said.
all right.
And and of course I said, no, I'm not befuddled. I'm fine. And then about a mile down the road as I'm driving, I'm thinking, I'm befuddled. I'm definitely out of sorts. I'm so I what I did is I took that whole theme and that word that, people have loved the title of my book, because people don't use the word befuddled a lot. It's really kind of a fun word, about a crazy state. And so anyway, I took that word and I extrapolated it into life, not just being like I was befuddled trying to get out of the house, but being befuddled, lacking focus, lacking drive, lacking purpose in life. And so, really, in order to live the life you choose, you have to be very intentional and you have to be very purposeful in all you do. Thus, the first three chapters of my book, Craig, number one is fighting through the noise. And it was amazing. I came up with the chapter titles before COVID, but I actually published my book during COVID. And there was so much noise of life and crazy stuff going on around us, but nothing like what happened in COVID. COVID was crazy. And my wife said, you definitely have to get this out there to the world, what's going on. The second chapter is be intentional. And it really a driving theme of my life. And the third chapter is purpose in the midst of chaos. And man, COVID time to start off was definitely chaotic, but our world is like that all the time. So those first three chapters basically describe the premise of my book and what it's all about, and then I take it from there.
Let's go back to the chapter one and all quiet. I don't think you used the word quieting the noise, but similar to that, talk a little bit about that, because what I have found, with matter of fact, I was just having a discussion a minute ago with the two producers about how one of the things that I encourage people to do is take some time to waste some time. And of course, most people think of wasting time of really not doing anything, sitting quietly and not really having any intention to do. And that is some of the most valuable time I think we can ever spend. And it appears to me that recently through the pandemic, lots of people were forced to do that. And so I think you've got a lot of people who are primed by that to read your book to find out, now that I've done some thinking about it, how do I get to the next steps? But talk a little bit about that quieting the noise thing, because people struggle with slowing down. And you
Right,
mentioned right at the beginning of it, focus, which is so important.
right. Yeah, I mean, you are so right. We all are over busy. We overbook ourselves. We are running through life crazy, trying to get from one thing to the next. And it really is, when you're fighting through the noise of life, a lot of that is giving yourself space and time to think and time to listen to what's going on in your mind, not just pushing yourself from one thing to the next. So that's really important. It also helps you to direct and focus your thoughts on what is going to be very purposeful and productive for your life, right? And so you're exactly right. COVID, for what they did is it forced everybody to slow down. It stopped everybody in their tracks, and so there was a lot of really positive benefit to what happened, because we all had to stop. And the truth is, our good friend D. Scott Smith, you were just talking about, that you interviewed, he and I had coffee about 4 months. It was October of '99, before COVID. And we were sitting there, and Scott saying, Russ, listen, man, with all that you're doing, you need to start a little side hustle. You need to do some coaching, maybe some speaking, things you're doing in your job, but do it for yourself. Have your own little business. He goes, and I don't, have you ever thought about podcasting or possibly writing a book? And so he nudged me that direction. And so I started the process, right, of doing that. But I was so busy with my 12-hour a day job for a corporation that I never had time to do that. So fast forward, COVID hits, and my wife says, honey, listen, if you really feel like this is the direction you want to go, that God really has you moving this direction with your life. She goes, he's just giving you all this space and all this time to do what you need to do and to get this book written and make things happen. She goes, so if you're ever we're going to do it, now is the time. And that was exactly what happened. I just launched from there with her encouragement. I took off. I wrote the book in 5 months. I started coaching, live streaming. Well, actually, I was podcasting at first. I wasn't live streaming at first, and started doing those things, right? And speaking where I could. Usually it was online at that point, clearly. And, there's still a mix nowadays of online and in person. I'm blessed today. I actually get to go do a keynote speech to a group down south of where I live here in person, which is great, real people. So I just launched into that. And that was all because, back to what you're saying, I was able to have space to think and to direct and to focus and to move. It took all that clutter, all that noise of life away from me for a minute and made me focus on what I really wanted to do.
And how much of, as you quieted the noise and just started listening to your life, what were the things that had maybe kind of the backstory to where you are now? What were some of the things that you felt, I've got a message. I really feel like the message now is appropriate. So many people are struggling through this and the motivation, but there had to be something behind that. Had you been, in a way, preparing for that for many, many years? And maybe what D. Scott Smith said, I see it's ready to pop out of you. You need to turn a corner. Had you been preparing for that, or was that something that you had never thought about?
No, well, I mean, as far as starting my own business, I had just started the thought about that. For years, I had not thought really about being an entrepreneur, honestly. I had some good jobs, and I had been a sales and marketing manager for over 30 years. And so, as far as what I did and as far as the type of person I was already connecting and networking and building community, which are things, huge things that I promote. And I was already encouraging and inspiring people. So that's my makeup. That's who I am. So when this all hit, and people, it really did throw everybody for a loop. It threw everybody for, there were people that were depressed and just, I mean, they lost their livelihood, and it really messed people up. Well, I handled it a different way. I was blessed with my mama's personality, positive. When you ask me about something, the first thing I'm going to say is, well, the good news is, and then no matter what it is, good or bad, I always focus on the good. So what I did is I launched into what I knew to do, and that was number one. I kept my morning routine and my structure of the start to my day the same. So I have a very structured with, I get up and I do prayer, meditation, journaling, I do exercise, and I do certain things every morning to get my day, affirmations, things, get my day started in a positive direction. So I kept on doing that. And then what I also did is I immediately promoted the groups that I was in to get on Zoom, to get on things, and I would help them so we could keep meeting and people could keep building community and being together, even though we couldn't be together. So what happened is those things really kept me on track when everything first hit. And then everything came out of that, Craig. Really, I saw this big need. I had already kind of, I had already got it kind of prepared the way for me before this hit. I was already starting down that path. So it wasn't like a complete start over for me. It was kind of like, okay, here's the way I was going. Let's jump on that train and let's ride that and encourage and help people.
Yeah, you used the word early on in terms of your chapter one, in terms of the focus part of it. I don't know if you're aware of this. Dan Rather has a program where he interviews lots of different people, and I enjoy his interviews. He interviewed Warren Buffett and Bill Gates separately and asked each one of them, what is the single most important facet to your success? And both of them, not knowing what the other person was going to say, said focus. And it sounds to me like what you have is a really good structured plan at the top of every day to get focused.
Yes, yes. Well, exactly. I am very intentional and I am very thoughtful about how I start my day and what I focus on. And that is what drives my day. Not because I am a right brain, creative, fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. That's me, right? I love life. I have fun. I look at my son who's just like me. He's a musician and I just laugh because he just is happy go lucky going through life, right? And that's really my makeup. But what I learned in business and in life with family and all of that, that I had to create some structure and systems to my life to function. And my mornings are extremely productive. I'm really good at time blocking. I'm really good at how I lay things out. And I've created some really good habits in my life to propel me to success in my day, each day. Part of that, and this is in my book, before my feet even hit the floor in the morning, the first thing I do is I wake up, and I'm a 4 a.m. kind of guy, right? I'm an early morning, out of bed we go. First thing I do is to tell myself, number one, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all that God has blessed me with, for my beautiful wife, for my family. Number two, I give myself a little pep talk. I say, I've got this. I've got this. I've got the talents, abilities to get out there and do today what I want to do. And number three, I say, today's going to be awesome. And when I tell people this, I'm coaching. I have people look at me and kind of chuckle and say, yeah, Russ, I can't say that. I can't say that. And I say, well,
Maybe a
that's okay.
little over the top.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. And I tell them, that's okay because I'm not telling you to do what I do. I'm
right.
giving you an example of what works. And so what's happened then, I call it putting on my awesome filter, Craig. So what I do is we filter life through a lens. I put on my awesome filter. So then when I walk out the door, no matter what hits me, bad, good, indifferent, whatever, I am filtering it through a positive lens. So it's not so bad. Life looks a whole lot better when you're doing it that way. So that's the number one thing I do. That's my habit every morning before I get out of bed. And that immediately shapes my focus. Because what do most people do, Craig? You wake up, you're fretting, you're worrying. What do I have today? What do I have to get done? I'm worried about this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get out of bed. And so I just have reversed that to make it a positive thing.
Yeah, well, two comments there. One is we need more people in life like you influencing the rest of us. And I'm certain, even though I don't know your close friends, I'm certain that they are glad to have you in their life because that positive influence, just when they are around you, rubs off on them. There's no doubt about that because we've spoken on the phone a couple of times, and I can tell you it's always a pleasure talking to you. There aren't any downtime. And the second comment that I have is I wish I could be that way more than I am right now. Every now and then I get caught in that loop where you get up and you go like, hey, listen, a couple more hours of sleep are going to feel really good right now. But we're going to talk more with Russ Hedge when we come back from a short break. Stay tuned. The number one reason why most people are unsuccessful is that they hate doing the work. Man, I don't even want to think about thinking about getting prepared. For those of you who are really struggling with, I don't really want to do the work, I've done most of the work for you. I've made the process easier. All you got to do is pick up one piece of material and everything that you need is there. I guarantee it. I've got thousands of students from my classes who've been successful using this approach. I know it works. You need to up your game. You can do it, but you got to figure out what's the best way for me to do it. You know you need to start preparing now. Everything that I knew over 40 years is in my book and in my interviewing skills online course. Everybody's got a favorite learning style. All you got to do is watch it, read it, listen to it. See you. And welcome back. I am talking today to Russ Hedge. He's a keynote speaker, marketing coach, and the author of the book Befuddled, Live the Life You Choose. And we want to talk more about that. Russ, you mentioned there a little bit about, the positive attitude. And I mentioned, I wrote in before the break that I wish I had a little bit more of that. And even if I had more, you know what, I'd want a little bit more, because who doesn't, I'd like to go, I heard somebody say one time, I'd like to go through just one day without a negative thought. No less several of them. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned your structure. I'm calling it structure, your system at the beginning of the day to organize it, to start your day out well. And you use the word intentional, and I really like that. This is not something that just happens. You are absolutely creating this. Then
Right,
talk a
right.
little bit more about the types of things that you do to that lead you successfully through the day, and possibly even if you do get tripped up by something, how do you unravel that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because a lot of times, because of my natural personality, people will say, well, Russ, I'm not like you. I can't do that. I mean, I just get down. That's all I do. And I always tell people, listen, let me be authentic and vulnerable to you at the moment and say we all have those times. We all have times where we struggle. We all have times where it's hard. We all have times when we have negative thoughts all the time, probably every day, right? But it's when you're intentional and purposeful on not being that way that it makes a difference, right? And so you need to be thinking and focused, like we talked about before, on ways that you can make it better, on ways that you can be focused and positive. And that's why the morning routine before I get out of bed, number one thing. Number two thing, I have, very, very structured time in the morning where I do, like meditation and devotions and prayer and all that. But I also journal. It gives me time to write my thoughts out, to write out what I want to do. I even write out goals that I want to accomplish and things I want to do. These are things that I put in place to help me get myself pointed and focused in the right direction. Okay. And then I exercise because we all feel better when we exercise. And people say, I'm not into exercise. Well, that's okay. You can exercise at whatever level that feels good to you. If that's walking 100 feet or 1 mile, do it. Every morning when I get up, I do some exercise or activity. And what I've done, Craig, because I'm this kind of person, I think I'm like a lot of your viewers and listeners. And that is when you create a habit and then you decide to stop it, or you decide to say, well, I'll do it every other day, or well, I'll do it every 3 days, or whatever. What ends up happening is you stumble, you trip, and you fall. And before you know it, at least the way I am, if you skip a day, it becomes 2 days, it becomes 5 days, it becomes a week, a month, a year, and suddenly you've stopped. So when I put these things in place, I committed to myself that I was going to do it every day. Every day. I do it Christmas morning, I do it Thanksgiving morning, I do it every holiday of my life. When I go on vacation, I always do it. I take my exercise clothes, I take my journaling materials, I do all that, because what I found is if I skip a day, then I run into struggles, right? So I keep this really, and so I think it's consistency and focus that are most important. But each person listening or watching needs to know that you need to do what works for you at your level. And I say, just pick something that you can be successful and significant and consistent at each day.
Yeah, I love the consistency part and the focus part, and I'll tell you why. I have routinely, I've not done the training myself, but for the most part, helped people who are in training, let's say for bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that, help them with their diet. And some of the ways people talk about diet, well, I can eat this, but then I get 3 days off and I can eat anything I want, whatever, and the backsliding kind of thing. Even as I talk about those issues with people, I will say I don't care how many of this exercise you do, you are establishing a habit. If right now you feel like you want to do one push up, most people go, well, I have one push up, that ain't gonna make any difference. Yes, it will. Because if you do one push-up when you think about it now, and later in the day you think about it again, and later in the day you think about it, well, then you did three. Okay, but it's not really the number. It's really the fact that you acted on when the thought came to mind, this is what I needed to do, if I didn't have it structured in a plan or whatever. And so to me, I
Right.
really love your idea about establishing some type of habit that works. Now, my next question is, have you at all adjusted or altered that plan that you have throughout the day? Do you have the one now that you started with years ago? Has it been tweaked at all? How do you go about tweaking it? Because I know sometimes in my life I'll say, what used to motivate me for whatever reason right now isn't. And I need to do something different. I put this picture on a wall or a saying on a wall. And, when I first put it up, I would walk by it and I would see it every time. Now I walk by it and I don't even look at it. And so talk a little bit about the transition and how do you go about making sure that you are staying current with what's working?
Yeah. Well, so as far as what I committed to do, I have not changed. I committed to do every day. I committed to what I did is I paired up my exercise with my prayer devotions and journaling, and I paired those together, and that has not changed. But what has changed is I've actually increased the amount I do. You'll find this funny. I started with one journal, and now I have three journals with three different purposes that
Why,
I do
why
every
am I
morning.
not surprised?
Yeah, I started with one little bit of exercise and then I changed. I did have knee surgery, so I have a new knee that I got about 3 or 4 years ago. And so I had to stop the running. I used to run every day. I don't run any longer, but I walk with my dog every day and I go to the gym several times a week and I do swimming and biking as well. So that adjusted a little bit, but I'm always doing some sort of exercise, some sort of things every morning. And so, yes, that's tweaked a little bit what I do, but the general idea of what I do has not changed. It's just the way that I'm made up. And I don't mean to tell anybody else that if you don't do it my way, it's not going to be successful because that is far, far from the truth. What you need to do is something that you can maintain, something that you can be consistent at. And a good example, Craig, is diet. You just talked about it. People always say, I'm going to go on this starve myself diet and I'm going to be miserable. And then I'll only be able to do it for a week. And then I'm going to stop, but I'm never going to diet again. In fact, I'm going to start eating more to make up for what I missed out on. And so, what I tell people, if you want to be healthier and better, what you do is you start one thing at a time. Maybe I just start eating a little better. Like, I'm going to take this chocolate cake and I'm going to quit buying it and quit putting it in front of me. And I'm going to put some fruit out and I'm going to have fruit available to snack on and make a little change, little step at a time to eat healthier is going to make a big difference. And I know we're running low on time, but I was going to say I'm reading the book that's been on my reading list forever, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I'm sure you've read that book. But he talks about your environment and how it evolves with habits and what the whole point is there when you have an environment that is negatively affecting you. It's creating bad habits instead of good habits. You need to change that environment. It doesn't mean you have to leave your house. It just means that instead of having chocolate cake, donuts, and everything on the counter every morning, you have fruit and water on the counter. And you start putting that around and you start creating an environment where you will want to eat healthier because it's available for you right there. And there's actually an example that was in a school. They actually changed the setup of a school without talking to anybody, doing anything. And what they found was everybody started drinking more water, eating healthier, because those were the things that were in their environment all around them. Just by changing and tweaking that environment, they made those positive changes and created positive habits. So that's just a good way to move that direction for people. That way they can be more consistent with their habits.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Russ, because I when people meet me and have been around me for a while, almost to a person, they eventually arrive at the comment, "You are one of the most disciplined people that I know." And so I'm really restricted. I don't really care if I feel like doing it or don't feel like doing it. If it's on my agenda to do, it's going to get done. But I'm really not that good being disciplined with my eating if it is in front of me. I am a visual person and I am a convenience person. If I can see it
We all
and
are.
it doesn't take a whole lot for me to get it heated up or cooked or whatever, I'm going to eat it. So what I have chosen to do is similar to you. I control my diet at the grocery store. If I don't buy it, it's not there. I'm not tempted, and I don't have that frailty of my personality, if you will. I don't have it exposed. I've just taken that
Right.
that out of the mix type thing. One of the things when we
Well,
talk. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say on that point, I was going to say that is how my wife wanted to do the Whole 30 diet a while ago. And what we did is that exact thing. We got rid of everything that would tempt us, and we only had the things in the house that we were going to eat. And that makes your life so much easier. But let me encourage all of your viewers and listeners and tell you, I am a right brain creative, not a structured, not a really organized personality at all. I do these things because I need to, because I need the help. I need the structure. I need the focus. I need the discipline. So I just made the decision, Craig, like you said, I made the decision that if it's on my calendar or if I've created that habit in the morning to do those things, I'm going to do it, period. Period. I did it when I had COVID. You know what I did when I had COVID and I was stuck in my room and for whatever. I got up every morning and I would walk the room. I would walk the room. I would stretch. I did exercises. I still did my journaling and it was hard. I didn't feel great, but I still did it because it didn't matter how much I did. It was the habit of
Right.
still doing it. It was the discipline of still doing it.
Yeah, and the drive, because what I heard in your comment was, if there's a will, there's a way. There's too too many people, I believe, who are in this category of currently befuddled about their lives, make it too easy for them to rationalize not doing the things that they genuinely know they need to be doing to get them out of the situation that they are. Let me ask you
Yep.
one final question, and I'll give you a chance to give me some final thoughts. What about the person? What I think about this is, in terms of choosing, I will also say, the life you have created, you have created by the choices that you've made, and you always have opportunity to make more choices. But what about the forgiveness part of that? My sense of it is right now, there's a lot of people who maybe quit their jobs or in whatever way they're befuddled and they're struggling with, where do I go? What do I do? How do I organize my life? How do I get a life back that I'm even enjoying? And they're beating themselves up because that is what they created by their past choices. Would you go with them? Let's say you were consulting or coaching them, and that's the predominant sense that you got from them. They're just really hard on themselves for the decisions or choices they've made in the past.
So basically, we're talking about they can't forgive themselves because they feel like they've led themselves down the wrong path.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, first of all, I am big on forgiveness, whether it is someone else or ourselves, because unforgiveness and bitterness only eats away and destroys us. And so I was watching. I'm a big sports guy, and I was watching the other day, and there was somebody talking. I think it was leading up to the Super Bowl, and it was, yeah. In fact, it was the coach of the Rams, and he was talking about the next play. You got to have a short memory, and you've got to move on to the next play, right? Know that you have the ability. That's what you have to do with life. You have to have a short memory, and you have to move on to the next moment, the next hour, the next day, whatever. You need to make a change, because if you feel, there's nothing wrong with feeling like you went down the wrong path and you did things. I mean, I self-evaluate myself. I think, yeah, I didn't really do that very well, but I like what I did here, whatever. And then making course corrections as you go. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But beating yourself up over it does no good at all. It doesn't do anybody good, especially you. And that's the same thing for everybody listening when with other people. If you're unforgiving, Craig, if I can't forgive you and I'm bitter at you because you did something to me, it eats away at me and destroys me, not you. And so what ends up happening is we need to come to a place of forgiveness, and especially for ourselves, because we do tend to forget about that. Self-care is very low on our priority list. Self-awareness and where we're at is very low on our priority list. And so we need to be very self-aware, take care of ourselves, forgive ourselves, and know that then the very next moment could be the greatest moment of our life, right? It could be. How do
Right.
we know there's not something fabulous sitting there in front of us? All we had to do was take the next step, right? But we stopped, and so we missed out on that opportunity. So take the next step, move forward, realize that you can live the life you choose. You can make things better. You just have to be intentional, focused, and be willing to do it.
Yeah, I know that Deepak Chopra has a saying. He says things are as they should be, and it's there are so many people that are fighting reality. They don't like where they are right now, and his advice is accept where you are right now, and then immediately after that, do what Russ Hedge says is make a positive intentional step of where do you want to go. Russ,
Right.
how do you
Right.
want to close this out, Russ? What are your last comments or last tips for anybody who is struggling right now in this process?
Well, first of all, my name is Russ Hedge, and russhedge.com is how you contact me, get in contact with me. And you can use any social media, email, my phone number, or you can schedule time to meet with me. And that is what I want to leave you with is I love to connect with people. I love to be able to help people. It doesn't cost anything to connect with me. It can only benefit both of us, you and me, through a connection. Maybe there's some inspiration or encouragement I can give to you. Maybe there's some encouragement and inspiration you can give to me. I think we are better together. That's a theme of my life. We are better together. We can build and lift each other up. I am here to encourage and inspire you to live a purpose driven life of significance. That is my purpose. That's my why. I want you to be a difference maker. I want you to be a world changer. I want you to get out there and do amazing things and forget about what happened. Take a look, make changes, and move forward. Don't look in the past. Look in what's ahead of you and the amazing opportunities and possibilities. And again, russhedge.com is the best way to get in touch with me. And that's also the way you can get my book. You can go to buy book now on my website and get it, or Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any online booksellers, you can get it as well. And I would love to encourage you through my book as well. It's an easy to read book, and it's very encouraging.
I have no doubt that it is, and I'm living proof. Just as to let the listeners know, we connected with each other through another podcaster, but then I was struggling with one part of my business, and you were with open arms, gave me way more time than I ever expected, just to help me sort things out. And so when Russ Hedge says he's interested in helping you, I'm here to tell you that is absolutely true. Russ, I want to thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, and I know that I hope a lot of people will gravitate to calling you, getting in touch with you, and buying the book and checking all that out, because you got a lot of really good stuff, my friend, to help people out during this really tough time that we're going through.
Great. Hey, thanks, Craig. I'm just honored to have been invited to be on your show. I'm honored to call you friend, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for another edition of Big in Biz with DiViz. I want to thank you for watching. Till next time, stay cool, have good thoughts. See ya.